Hi, Bruce Robinson here. We've become concerned at the number of young people who leave the church and rarely return, despite having had a strong foundation of church, Sunday school and Bible teaching. What was missing? So Jackie and I decided to ask them. We interviewed 140 adult children of strong Christian parents across 3 different countries. Our focus was to ask what is the actual percent who left, and most importantly, why did those who leave go? Was it something that we could fix or not? Before I tell you the results, let me state clearly that the Bible makes it clear that parents cannot make their kids Christian. It's between our kids and God, not us. But the Bible also makes it clear that we do have 2 other key responsibilities, very well defined. We call them the 2 A's. We are an aroma of Christ, 2 Corinthians. We can be a sweet smell, drawing them in, or a bad smell, pushing them away. And importantly, we are also His ambassadors for Christ, 2 Corinthians. And just as ambassadors represent their country, we represent God, especially to our children. So how we represent Him in that role matters. We can actually give God, like a bad ambassador can a country, a bad name. And this is a vital role. Otherwise He wouldn't have given it to us. To understand this role better, think of insects and light. Christianity is the light, but we as parents, if we are sweet smells and excellent ambassadors for Him, can make the kids into moths that are attracted to the light, and vice versa, cockroaches that run away from the light. The numbers of these 140 young people are sobering. 53% are not attending church as adults. When we asked why, we got 5 recurring reasons, and I'm going to tell you about them. But brace yourself a bit, because do you really want to hear what these reasons are? They made me squirm. But look, honestly, you'll be encouraged to know that the solutions are not that hard. They're all problems that are fixable, both by mothers and fathers. Though, to be honest, again, number 5 largely lies at Dad's feet, as we shall see in a moment. At the end of this video, after talking about the 5 challenges, we will talk about some specific strategies to fix them. So, number 1, Christianity didn't make a difference. Christianity did not seem to change their parents' lives. They seemed to like money and prestige just as much as others, and were just as judgmental as others, if not more. They donated money, yes, but sacrificial love, not much. Not what the Bible talks about. They didn't really see anything in their parents that inspired them. Christianity didn't make a difference. And importantly, and close to the bone, their faith didn't seem to enrich their parents' marriage. Their parents seemed no different from non-believers, lacking in grace and not apologizing for being impatient and unkind. And they seemed to fail to nurture their relationship. Therefore, these young people felt that if faith didn't positively impact their parents, why should they consider embracing it themselves? So just as a little example, Jackie and I worried about things like this. So when we headed off each year for our annual wedding anniversary love retreat, we decided to make it clear to the kids why we were doing it. Primarily, of course, for us, but we wanted to make it clear to them that we were intentionally nurturing our relationship and honouring our Christian vows made at the altar to love and to cherish each other. The second problem they expressed was that of the intellectual closed gates. Their parents discouraged open discussions about faith, suffering, that sort of thing, shutting down questions and alternative viewpoints. They did not welcome engagement on different perspectives, and therefore the kids felt that Christianity must be fragile, like made of glass, with any challenge representing a hammer. So then when they were confronted with intellectual challenges at school or at university or their workplace, they were like lambs to the slaughter, to the intellectual slaughter. Now this problem breaks my heart a bit, because as a scientist who is at the coalface of science, and also as a physician who's at the coalface of human suffering, I know Christianity can withstand such scrutiny. Kids should be encouraged to explore and ask tough questions. And then they'll grow up realizing that Christianity is not made of glass, but is rather a strong and resilient faith. It's more like a tough lighthouse in rough seas than being made of glass. These young people said that the same thing applies to topics like sex. Many teens feel frustrated that their parents and the church avoid discussing sex openly, leaving them frustrated and vulnerable in today's society of social media, pornography and sexual pressures. The third problem they expressed was a kind of a lazy reliance on their home church. Some parents relied too much on their church, which was often boring and one-dimensional, and didn't seek out the teamwork of other dynamic, inspiring Christian communities. So their kids missed out on those rich experiences and fresh dimensions of Christianity that would have strengthened their faith and given them wonderful, new, attractive friends and role models. To be honest, I fear that I almost made this mistake too, but I recognised this issue in particular when I heard testimonies on a Sunday night from young adults who credited the Scripture Union Beach Mission experience as pivotal in their experiences in faith. Anyway, so the next morning at 9:01 a.m. I rang Scripture Union and signed up our entire family. We'll do anything. We actually attended for 20 years, and 2 of our children say that was a major factor in their commitment to Christianity. The fourth reason they described was a kind of a cult-like isolation. Many Christian parents did not have a healthy balance between believers and non-believers as friends, and only seemed to be comfortable socializing within church circles, and seemed a bit lost out in the real world. Their kids therefore felt that Christianity required them to live in a social castle, separated from the real world by an imaginary wall. This can push kids away from faith because it makes them feel like they are joining a cult, well, sort of like a cult without knowing it, but they have to abandon their non-believing friends. In contrast, their non-Christian friends' families seem to have many diverse and rich relationships and interesting discussions on all sorts of topics. Anyway, as an example, one way that Jackie and I sought to deal with this risk, actually in anticipation, was to keep a visitor's book for people who came for dinner, with our aim being to make sure that 50% of our guests were non-Christians, 50% were Christians. Look, I honestly still see a lot of this cult-like behaviour. For example, I recently attended a birthday party where 147 out of the 150 guests were from the person's own church. The fifth reason that kids give is the harsh, judgmental fathering phenomenon. A false sense of God as Father. A complaint that Christian fathers were too strict, too judgmental, too harsh, and lacked that type of unconditional love exemplified by the father of the prodigal son. And therefore it became difficult for their children to sense the reality that God is a deeply loving and unconditionally loving and forgiving Father. Now I confess that as a busy doctor, I would often come home tired and grumpy. But I realised that I could not use that as an excuse. A reason is never an excuse. So I started to go out of my way to tell the kids that I loved them. And I sometimes would slip it in unexpectedly into casual conversations. For example, we love sport, we talk about sport, and I'd say, "Hey mate, one more thing." "Yes Dad?" "Oh, I really love you." And nothing you can do can ever destroy that love. Now look, I'm still busy, so I still have to be careful about that, to be honest. Anyway, these 5 reasons challenge us as parents and parent figures such as grandfathers, grandmothers and others. Now, when I speak about this issue in churches and I ask, how well are you doing in each of these 5 areas? To be honest, and scarily, only about 20% give themselves a pass mark on any of these issues. You see how scary that is? As parents, we must represent God better than that, as His ambassadors, embodying and communicating His nature and purposes in life, and exposing kids to others who do that too. We cannot just sit back and hope that church, prayer and the Bible will do it all. He asks more of us as His ambassadors. So finally, here are 4 quick steps to take. Number 1, be intentional. Identify with honesty which of these areas you, as a mother or father, need to improve in and start to change. Secondly, discuss these issues in your home group and your church. Thirdly, form a specific parenting group in your church. Perhaps, honestly, mostly meeting online initially to discuss and grow together, sharing ideas that work. And finally, subscribe to our new Tips for Christian Parents YouTube channel to be informed as ideas, strategies and encouraging stories are posted. So parents and parent figures, let's pull together to become better ambassadors for God and reduce that 53% of kids who could walk away. Faithful parenting shapes eternity. So let's act now.